from the phone.
From the
And I
phone, from the
believe
car.
from the car to Melbourne to America to the
Where are you?
stars.
Where are you, Josh Norbido? Where in the world is Josh Norbido right now?
Yeah, check it out. The mobile studio. No, I just dropped off our two dogs. It kind of sprung on me. I kind of forgot that our dogs were getting groomed, and this place is like world renowned. So it's worth the drive, but it's like 45 minutes away from our house. And I knew that by the time I get here, I ain't gonna be able to make it back in time for my studio. So I was like, I'll bring the sign and I'll figure it out on the phone. I did some tests yesterday to make sure like you can still control stuff, and you can. And so we're doing it. We're doing it.
I'm
And
saying this
now,
is me next week when I'm in a hotel room. Do I have to bring my sign? Do I have to bring a sign? I love that you brought the sign though in the car.
it's all
Okay,
the details,
let's
right?
welcome our guest. Nick K's here. What's up, Nick K?
Hello, friends. It's good to be back. How are we?
Where in the world are you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where am I? I'm in my apartment in Melbourne, so I feel like I'm the only one who's kind of staying put right now. Hooray for
Time
me!
to be moving and shaking. You should go groom a dog or something.
Well,
Yeah, wow.
I don't even have hair, so I barely need to groom myself. It's a very low maintenance existence. I don't even mow lawns because I live in an apartment, so life is good. Like that whole notion of having to take care of like hair and brush and hair drying and so forth. I'm like, nah. I have two eyebrows that I take care of, and that's about it.
With you, brother. With you.
Yeah.
Much less a dog that deserves an internationally famous groomer. Like I need that problem in my life.
Well, who would invest
45
into
minutes to
that?
get the
Like,
dog's haircut.
Just give me a few more years. I'll be there.
yeah.
Look,
I mean, but here's the
once you're
thing.
there, you'll understand the luxury of not having to spend the time with these issues of hair.
Hey, Doug, I might have to. Doug, I might have to leave you on comment duty because on my phone. So for those watching, I'm using my phone right now.
Well, in that case, when the teacher's away, the kids will play. Let's go crazy in the comments, kids. Let it fly.
Yeah, I can see the comments, but for me to put them on the screen.
Look at all the friends. Bob's here and Jason. What? Jason's here. But not really. There's one of my favorite people I've never met. Jimmy. Nice. Hey, Jimmy, Scotty, David. Hello, everyone. Look, I'm on comment duty. Dun, 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 Thomas is here and Scotty P. I think I got them all.
I love it. Hey, Nick, your mic is a little hot. It's so funny. We made it lower and now
we
it's hot
checked
again.
that, right?
It must be the enthusiasm, I think, now that we're live. You're like, all right.
What, me?
Okay.
No, I'm hot.
If I peel.
All right.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay, then.
Oh, much better.
I'm going to start yelling again shortly.
That's funny.
Like,
how long?
Hey, what about the intro? Are we doing that? I planned a bit.
Oh, yeah, guys.
Why is it
you know
so fun?
Let's do an intro. Welcome to the Magic Guys.
Thanks for listening. It's time for us to disappear now.
That was
the worst intro ever.
Oh my God. All right. Let me try that again.
They're guys. They do magic. They are the Magic Guys.
Oh my gosh. I have to do the manual sound effects today.
No, we have to. Look, here's the thing. I'd planned that as though it would be our normal intro and the timing would be right. Everyone's doing a Magic Guy thing. Suddenly, everyone's eyeballing me. I'm under scrutiny. It's, whatever.
Well, look, when this is being played, like if anyone's listening to this on Spotify, they wouldn't have seen the trick, but they will hear the intro music like keep playing out, like what you would usually hear. So in the edit, it'll seem normal. All right, what do we got?
It's bad costuming choices, but look, it kind of works. It's not really shooting you the bird. It's an illusion of the bird.
There we go.
I mean? Not really the bird. It's not that.
Where else?
Not
where else do you put that?
Who put me on preview? Get me off of here.
Hey,
thank you.
Hey, I figured it out on the mobile device. This is crazy. We are going
quit
crazy.
Talking for a while.
All right. Yeah. So Nick, Nick and I got to hang out last week. I came to Melbourne. I got to do a show there. it's always cool when you get to travel for the thing you love doing. And Nick, this gracious man here, cooked me a home dinner meal. It was dope. I got to finish my show and then not have to look for, the Uber Eats that's still available at 11 o'clock at night. So cheers to you, man.
My pleasure, man. Like, thanks for coming out. I mean, it's always such a difficulty, like when you travel, because most times you fly in and then fly out, and it's become such a bother when you're just trying to keep it together and like not miss your flight or get your rest in and everything else. So thank you for making the time.
Yeah, it was sick. And I'm sure some of you guys would have seen the videos we made and posted from our little hangouts. I think you saw one, Doug, right? You saw the mobile phone and card transportation. Doug just playing with his fingers. Good. What do you got there,
Tim.
Doug?
What's up, Tim? I got you, man.
And this is the engagement. This is the engagement that we know and love.
Look, I have a certain appreciation for Tim asking, "What's up, Tim? Thank you very much." By the way, I'll go back to not talking, but I had to represent Tim's comment. I'm on comment duty.
Yeah. Well, that's what we appreciate. I mean, you can still talk as well. Feel free to talk and involve yourself in the podcast as well, Doug.
How would you feel if I did that via mime? Like if I just interacted, but only use mime techniques, which I have trained in.
I think it would be a big hit with our listeners.
Yes. I think we might get more conversations in.
It's always interesting when you have like three people in the equation because you don't want to be talking over each other. I got friends that we jam with every Monday, and so many of them are guilty of just talking over you, which I'm kind of used to because, I have a Greek background. So it just makes me feel like I'm celebrating Easter with my parents and my sisters and my nieces. And we're just constantly talking over each other. And I'm just the type of guy that if someone speaks, I'm just like, just shut up.
So I have a mantra before the podcast not to do that every time, and then I fail every time. So but I try. Know that I try, guys. Know that I try.
That's what's important. Well, I feel like.
See, we almost did it. We almost did it again.
Was it?
Look, erroneous of all that. Erroneous of talking over each other. I think what's more important about this podcast is the content we talk about. So the question I put to you, fellas, is what are we going to talk about today?
Yeah. I was thinking of that.
Let's talk about where's Jason. He's in the comments. That's where he's at.
You know where he is. He's always on a cruise somewhere. If he's not here,
let's talk about mime and magic. Is there room for this? Mime and magic.
I think the correlation between mime and magic is they nearly walk hand in hand. And that's because when you practice something as primitive as vanishing a coin, and that's my favorite discipline in magic, coin magic. When you do something as primitive as a French drop, you take it many a times before you practice miming.
You're miming it.
Exactly. And it's funny because I'm so guilty of like laying in bed and just like playing with a coin it's not even there. And I'll be putting it into Goshman pinch, into this pinch, into JW grip, into like, thumb clip. Like I'll just be transferring like in my mind over and over again. I think it's so important to practice that you have something, especially when it's not there, because the one thing that I teach in my lecture is it's really easy to vanish nothing. But if you can convince something that you got something in your hand and then you squeeze and it's gone, like it is just the cleanest experience they can have as far as magic goes.
I was spending time with a student right before the podcast. Phoenix, if you're listening, what's up, brother? But we were talking about the vanish of an object, and what I wanted to focus on was not as much as the placement as though what happens after the placement, how you hold the ball that's not there, and why the hand is not flat but bulbous because there's a ball in it. And these are the little touches that can elevate the simple sleight into a believable moment, right?
One of the things I was playing with yesterday.
Jeez, we're mine.
Yeah, well, I was exploring the Strike Vanish yesterday as I was just sort of tinkering, and it's not something that I do a lot. But one of the things that I've come up with a method in which you can do it, but then show both your hands empty, which is a really fun moment. And one of the cool things that I was doing as well is that I was breaking it up into several different moves. And one of the things that I had done was vanish it. It wasn't in the hand at all, but I was hitting the pen and creating an audible convincer. So as I'm tapping away with my Sharpie marker at the time, it's going exactly like that. Yeah. And so I was playing with that and a couple of other ideas. Yeah, exactly right, Doug. And so I was playing with a couple of ideas of that nature. And it's like the audible notion is very interesting, because one of the things that always makes me second guess things is when people say things to the effect of like, oh, that gimmick is too loud. And it's like, if the gimmick is too loud, how quiet's your audience? Because my audience gets rowdy or gets wild, you know? So it's, I mean, depending on the trick, obviously, but like people like Doug who work in noisy environments on street, and which is the same realm that I came from when I first started doing magic, where we are about getting reactions from our audience. It's a very interesting thing. So I guess that identify what the problem is or the weakness, and then find out how to combat it. But yeah, miming versus audible convincers, I think that's one of the things you can do to convince that like something isn't there, an audible convincer. So like, I've been trying to do a routine where you have a coin in a glass and you can't see it, but you can hear it swirling around the glass. You can hear it going around the glass. And then when you tip it out, it appears. And then I love the idea of taking that same coin and putting it back in, and you hear it land in the glass. But when you look inside the glass, there is nothing there.
I'm curious if Josh has ever played with these sound techniques to integrate as a method. You do the beatboxing and all the sound effects. Have you ever considered like learning how to make a coin sound and use that in a trick as the method?
That's a great idea. I definitely should. I mean, I could definitely use beatboxing to cover sounds. That's for damn sure. But
as the method itself,
not yet. I mean, you can make like a water sound maybe, but I'll work on that. But
if you ever need to make the sound of hollow wood.
That's right. That's right. We know where to go. But yeah, with miming, there's a funny thing I do in my coin magic in my working set, and I do this one where you take the coin, you throw it, and then the David Stone, you see it appear in this hand, like you throw it, you catch it. So but good. I purposely do this. I go like, I take it and I go, look, you can actually see it look like it goes, and then you throw it and then it appears. And even though only magicians would recognize
this, you do the pretend Morit grip or whatever that thing is.
Yeah, but I'm doing it for a regular audience, and
which is what they all think anyway. That's what they all think when you do this anyway. Oh, he hides it good.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I can't. Yeah, I'm gonna really try to see it, and then when you finally do that, they're like, what the hell? And then it's too late, and then it's over here. So that's one miming I do, and then the other thing I was going to say was, I actually used to do a mime and magic show, as in I had a mime artist that I would do a show with, and this is like back maybe, I want to say like 7 years ago or something. And there's some great photos of it, and I have video and things like that. And basically,
both on stage together, or was it two separate entities?
Sometimes, yeah. So it was definitely a woven act. And so originally I just wanted an opener to my show. I wanted something of a different act to do something first. And so I met this guy, Peter Wilson, and he came on. And so he did this opening act, and it was beautiful because once he'd done the act, to turn the lights off to start the show, he would walk up to where the bulbs were, and as if there was an invisible string, he'd go like this, and then that light would turn off. Then he'd walk over again, and that light would turn off. I just had my brother at the back of the room, switching the lights off. But essentially the show in a nutshell was like, he had invisible props, and then they would become visible by the time I got them. That was kind of the byplay that we had. It was fun. Yeah, it was good fun. Mime and magic. There's definitely video out there in the stratosphere of that stuff, but it was a fun time.
What's the close on that show? I'm assuming that's pre-backflip. What are you doing back then to close that shindig?
Oh yeah,
metamorphosis.
That's a great question.
You get metamorphosis on them?
We had talked about it. It'd be funny if I ended up in the mime outfit and he ended up in the corporate suit, but we never worked on the act enough to develop it to there. I can't even remember what the closing was now. I have to watch it again.
That's pretty sad. I don't even remember what the closing was of my show. That's a preset.
But like you can imagine, like
Mime and Magic don't coexist as much as, although there are some great ones. What about Tina Lennert, Vito Lupo? There's some great ones currently. Some of the comedy guys.
I mean, we've got Penn and Teller, obviously the classic.
Yeah. Look, anyone who's ever seen my version of the Invisible Deck, in which I produce a card at my fingertips, and I go through the whole rigmarole with my audience, and I ask them to reach in there and take out a single playing card. So collectively, like they choose a color, a suit, and a value, and then I say, someone take that out, and I ask them to fold it in half and fold it in half again, and I take it back, and then I just wave my fingers, and you see it appear. So we go through this whole pseudo miming technique, which it's kind of fun because in some ways, like you can have a lot of fun byplay with it, where I might turn to someone and say like, oh, can you see the faces of the playing cards? And they go, yes. And then I'll take their drink away from them like this as a gag. But every now and again, like, if you go to a child, they go, yes. And I genuinely say, like, don't you love the imagination that a kid has? And their parents smile in that moment. So there's a lot of ways that you can do that. But ultimately what you're doing is asking them to engage their imagination for just a moment. And then when you make that imagination a reality, it really hits hard. And it is that type of thing that the difference between like a magic show and a theater show is that you don't allow for the imagination to fill the gaps. When you go and see somebody fly like Peter Pan, and you can see the wires like, carrying that said, Peter Pan around, flying around the stage, you can see it, but it doesn't matter because it's you let your imagination fill the storyline. But you couldn't do that in a magic show because they would say there's wires. So that's the type of thing that, that's the sort of thing that works against us in a sense.
Let's talk about this invisible card trick you just talked about. That sounds like a beautiful thing. Is this something you've published or like?
You got to see it.
What comes to mind as you say this is Darren Brown does a named card and cigarette, I think is what comes to mind. Wondering what your launching point or what that is speak about it, please.
Okay, so if we're exploring my invisible deck, effectively there was a Penguin lecture from Mark Mason, and he releases products.
Mark Mason, right?
We love Mark Mason. And so when he was talking about how people release products, they come to him and they'll say, oh, Mark, I got a card trick. And the first thing he says is it better than Invisible Deck?
I think we've had this conversation.
Yeah, and the answer is no. He's like, yeah, the answer is no. He just says, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
And so I thought to myself, a friend of mine, my good friend Matt Casey, goes, classics are classics for a reason. And I care what he says. Like his words carry weight with me. And so I started to explore that. And so when it came to like coins across, everyone should have a coins across. I do my coins across. Everyone should have an invisible palm routine. I have my version. And I love my versions. I think that like everything that I dislike about other people's versions, I look at it, studied it, and pulled it apart, put it back together. So when I started exploring the invisible deck, for me, it didn't make sense to, I don't know, like I just thought to myself, if you could truly do an invisible deck, what would you do? And it's like, I would ask them to pick a card, take it, and then make it appear.
Yeah. And good answer for sure. I bet that just kills, right? Does it just kill?
It absolutely slaughters. And it's one of my most proudest creations, but the effort that you need to go to in order to be able to achieve it is pretty gnarly. And I share it in my lecture. I share it wide open. Everyone who's seen it goes, that's great, but no one will make the effort. And I literally hand them, I go, here's how it's done. Go forth, children, and make your own versions.
Do you give it a card? Do you give it away? I'd give it away.
Let them keep the card?
Yeah.
Yeah, they can keep the card. Absolutely. Most times they don't want to. Or there's no need for it. If they ask for it, I'll let them have it. Can I have this? Of course. And I'll let them keep it, Yeah, it's just a playing card.
Hey, since I'm on comment duty, before this gets lost in the comment spiral, apparently Danny Goldsmith does an audible coin toss. Danny Goldsmith, the coin god. No surprise he has work on weirdness. Anyway, comment duty over.
I remember there used to be a cool gimmick that would allow you to make sounds that were pretty wild.
Yeah.
And
it was one of them. Tobias made that one with the...
Look, even a sound recorder. You could buy these little sound players that will play sounds even remotely.
Well, I don't know about the Tobias one, but even seeing that movement there gets me excited. But the one I saw years and years ago was an actual audio playing thing. And the clip they showed was of a wine glass, and you're going like this, and it's making the ringing sound. and then you bring your
I've got
finger
that gimmick.
away from the glass, and it would still keep making the sound. And I was like, geez, that's magic. But never bought it, but it looked amazing.
I got it's such a great gaff. That thing was like $11, and I bought it. And when I was doing it, I was like using styrofoam cups or whatever people were drinking from, beer cans and stuff. And I would like wet, and I would go around the glass, and then and what it does in the end, it plays Happy Birthday. So it's actually a routine. It's actually 3 phases where you do like a couple. Wow. You do one, and then you get a couple of more. Then you do like this, and then like you can grab someone's glass and fill up another person's glass as if you're tuning it, and then you can go Happy Birthday to you, and it's really slow, but they pick up what you're doing, and it's a really fun moment, especially because sometimes you do routines and the audience is quiet, and you want them to be ready. You want these big reactions, but the thing is, if they're going to be quiet, go, okay, what can I do to take advantage of this? So if everyone's quiet and you do that, perfect moment. There is a routine that was released by Eric Jones called Audio. It's a coins to pocket routine, and it's an absolute ripper routine. Like that is like, again,
I remember that one.
Yeah, it's a great routine. Whether you hear this audible clink in your pocket, so if everyone's going to be dead quiet, take advantage of it, because the last thing you want to do is to try and like I'm going to do this routine, but you're doing it for a football club with 80 people in a room. It's like that is not a very appropriate way to be doing it. Like, no one's going to hear it.
My buddy Sean Dawson Dante, French Quarter street performer and vaudeville performer extraordinaire, does it this way. He puts the cup down on the table, and he has 3 coins over here, and his cup is this one. It's a Gary Animal Babe cup, because we bought the same cup.
Ooh.
He vanishes the coins from his hand. You hear the clink in the cup, and then he dumps them out. That's the first one. It's literally the coin vanishes over here, and then you hear that, and it's 3 in a row, one at a time. It's so
I love that extra. Yeah, I love that extra detail. I also love, similar but different to that, how we had Alex the Magician on the busker months back, and
I'm so sad I missed that show. Can we have her back, please? Because I would like to speak with her.
should. So she does, one of the amazing things that she's created is a Bill to lemon, but the moment that Bill vanishes, the spectator feels their lemon vibrate. Like they feel a moment thing in the moment. Did that sound weird? A moment in the moment. They feel something in the moment, as in it happened in real time. Yeah, that stuff just, gets me going.
Bob, speaking of which, you should see the method that Sean used, Mr. Possible, to emulate, and it did exactly emulate this sound. It emulated that sound because it did not use electronics. So there's a hurdle for you, Mr. Possible. Bob still probably has a method. He's like a mad genius villain, Mr. Bob Possible.
All I can think of is that you have like a tin in your shoe with a coin, and you just like your foot's just like under the table.
So that is not far off of the method. It's a little more elegant than that. It's more Tommy Wonder-esque than caveman-esque, in that, you think of the lengths that Tommy Wonder might go through to make something that beautiful happen. It's a beautiful moment. There's the coin. It's gone. Ding. Oh, there it is. Wow. 3 times in a row.
Wow. Hey, and Antonio had a question. Can I even? You might have to do this. Antonio.
Antonio asked, "Is street magic a start for beginners of card magic?" That's an interesting question.
I think street magic is a start for anyone for anything or any art form. Yes.
I think, again, the thing about street magic is that when you, I mean, I might be talking out of turn, but especially here in Melbourne, I think that busking in Australia is far different to anywhere in the world. And that's from everyone I've either dealt with, and Doug, I hope you get a chance to experience this for yourself. We'd love to have you come down. Like genuinely, we have lectures lined up for you the moment you decide you want to come. Like we are so excited for you to have that. Now,
fantastic.
When you're performing here, it's so different. And I don't know if like maybe if like you with other street performers, you basically come into the fold. And if you start getting bad hats, you start affecting other people's bad hats as well. So I think that's something that probably should be discussed. That if you are going to be someone who does want to start exploring street magic, you need to not obviously worry too much about your routines and so forth. Yes, you will get better at them. You will cut your teeth because you'll get the flight time. But you also need to focus on other things like getting them to stay, getting them to pay, getting them to go away. Those are the three sort of things you need to do.
Presuming you intend to make money, but what if you just go out there to perform?
Well, the question that begets another question. Is the question that is that being detrimental to the actual street society because you're doing stuff when you should be asking for money, and when your hats are heavy, everyone's hats are heavy.
It absolutely is detrimental to the street community. The professionals.
Is it?
And most professionals will manage that situation. I had a noob out in the French Quarter last weekend. He set up in the wrong spot. And at the end of that show, he had two people on him going, "What are you doing? Don't do that." And then he went to where he should be, which is out of the way. So I think it's self-policing that if you're a new guy out there, and we all are at one point new out there, everybody is at one point a starter. So you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, so but you got to do that. Sorry to cut you off, but to do that, I think what you should do is this is the best advice you can get. Find a street performer, watch their show, pay for the privilege when they've done a good job, explain to them that you would also like to enter that realm, and ask if they would be happy to guide you in sharing a pitch. Because that is one of the best, most fun things you can do when you're sharing a pitch with your bros, going round for round, and half the time you can finish your show and maintain your audience, and they can see another show at the same time, and they'll hat twice.
Also, while you're doing that, maybe you're in a town that doesn't have street performing, and there's a good spot, and you go break that spot open and do your thing, and go do that too. Make your own art in new places where no one's doing it.
Those are two really good ideas.
So I'll take it back a little bit further to Antonio's question of street magic for beginning card magic. Like the way that I learned how to act normal in front of humans while doing card magic was just by going and doing street magic and saying like, "Hey, I'm a beginner magician, practicing some magic. Can I show you a few things?" And Jason Ma and I used to do that all the time. And I mean, we still do, and we make videos and stuff.
Yeah, when I was 15 or 16, I'm going to coffee shops and interrupting people to show them magic and such. This counts.
Yeah. And when you're a beginner, I think, you're only approaching 5 people. Like you're only getting the courage to approach 5 people.
Yeah, you're not doing an hour circle show.
And I think if you approach it by saying, "Hey, I'm a beginner. I'm a practicing magician. Can I show you some magic that I'm working on?" I think I don't think that's going to be too detrimental to the pros, because people know the difference between, an actual showman and this guy who said, "Can I show you some practicing stuff?" But the important thing I did learn from Jason Ma is he's like, whenever there's a busker, just never, have your cards out while they're doing their show. Never do any of that stuff, and definitely don't do any performing anywhere near them. So although he would literally busk and make money professionally, and then he'd pack up his stuff and we go do stuff for free because we're filming it and it's fun and we muck it around. But we would just stay away from buskers, and we'd make it very obvious we're doing something different than our living. Like, we're working out some stuff, or we're making a video or whatever. And I think if you're beginning doing card magic, then that's probably a less nerve-wracking way to go at the very, very start. And then once you know how to not freak out when you're doing your DLs or whatever, then you would approach someone in the fold.
Antonio's always also asking, like, what are some good card tricks to start off with if he's going to be doing some street? I think that every magician beginning should at least start or commit to having an ambitious card routine.
What are the staples? Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say an ambitious card routine, because it's, basically what you're doing is you're building a toolbox of how to control a card to the top in as many different ways as possible. And then you're routining those techniques. So it's kind of cool that you're learning techniques, firstly, and secondly, that you're drilling them. So you have effects that you can actually do into that effect. The second effect...
What do you reckon?
I hate the 2-card.
If you learn 3-card Monty, you can, get the rubes for some extra cash on the side in between shows. So make that number 2, 3-card Monty.
Well, the reason I say 2-card Monty is because there's little happening in the actual movements of the routine. It lets you bring out your personality a bit doing the trick. For someone trying to achieve that.
It's a closer for me half the time. So card to wallet is just is that a beginner trick? Maybe not.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. So the beauty of doing an ambitious card routine is that you realize that there's 2 things you'll learn. You'll learn techniques to control the card to the top. You will learn how to crescendo your show, because it's going to be a multi-phase routine in which it gets cooler and cooler. And then you're going to learn what a decent kicker is. So then you'll get to a point where you have an ambitious card routine where you will go, oh, what's my kicker ending? The card to wallet is a perfect kicker ending. But you might want to do something else. You do a Mercury card fold and put it under someone's watch, like I like to do in my ambitious card routine. But the thing is, I have like 6 different kicker endings. And you should have many different kicker endings, because you should be an opportunist and see an opportunity in which you go, oh, that guy's wearing a watch, I'll put it under there. Or I'm going to pin a card to someone's back, and that's going to be the signed card from the ambitious card routine, Or I might tear off a corner, and that corner is going to match, another piece that's hidden behind a picture frame. But there's many different kicker endings. So that's why the ambitious is like the best thing to start off with, because you'll learn kickers, you'll learn things of that nature, and you'll learn structure. And once you understand that, you can apply that to most everything.
And you should learn to do it in mime as well.
Yes,
especially if you're doing nightclub gigs and no one can hear you. You want to be able to gesture everything. Yeah.
I was talking to Teller about this when he was in town, and me maybe 10 years ago, I thought to myself, like, if I ever lost my voice, I would not have a career. I would be screwed. But I find me now, as I'm getting older and older, that I'm just speaking less and less. And I'd like to run this by yourself, Doug, for someone who's a little more, like, been around a little longer in the magic realm.
Are you calling me old?
No, I'm telling you life experience. It's different.
All right, bring it.
Cool. So what I was thinking was, okay, hold that thought. Someone's here.
All right, look, while this is going on, I've been itching to talk about this from Jason Yoakum. He says if you toss a coin from palm to palm, it makes a smack noise. And after a few tosses, you can click your tongue as though it landed on the other hand. This is probably a method. But listen to this. It reminded me of Arthur Buckley's bounce pass, which no one knows about except old guys like me. So I'm going to talk about this bounce pass for a second.
Just quickly, how many?
You can make that sound by having the coin bounce off your outstretched hand and into the other hand as it falls down. Can you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Anyway, I talked about it now. What was the subject we were talking about?
Well, I was going to say, how many people just tried to click their tongues then? Because that's what I started doing. I was like,
is that what you were doing?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, crap, it's going to pick it all up. So
you can really get a good, you can get a good sound out of this thing. I'm getting sticky though.
I don't know what the sound is. The sound of that you're trying to let us hear the coin, or just your hand smacking?
No, it's the coin hits the palm and bounces off into the other hand. So it's an auditory convincer that the coin goes into the hand.
Yeah.
This is a horrible angle. It needs to be presented this way so that the audience can see the coin hit. Sometimes it's a retention also. We'll quit talking about it. I know you hate the exposures. Yeah. Suddenly he doesn't care anymore. Yeah,
if I've learned anything, it's that you just put everything out there and people aren't going to do it anyway. So
Look, the galley likes it. David Ung's, there's my yes men. Thank you, fellas.
Yeah. Nice. So Christmas is coming up soon, and pretty much from now to the end of the year is Christmas corporate events, at least here in Australia for us corporate guys. And so I titled that as the video because I was trying to desperately think of something, but that's a topic
I was so happy to see that title.
Yeah, it's worth talking about because there's a bit of a process to making sure you have that funnel of gigs coming in by the end of the year. But what does your end of year look like, Doug? Because you don't have to rely on that. So, are you accepting work?
So, honestly, in December, I'm going to have major dental work done. I'm going to probably take most of the month off. How about that?
Wow.
Eyeballing an insane 2023. I want to make sure I'm ready for the biggest year of my life. And this has to be part of that process. So that's what's happened. I'm giving myself a gift. And yeah, it'll be rough, but that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, nice. Okay. And Antonio, just to clear up, yeah, Christmas isn't for 2 months, but what I mean is every company starts holding these events for their staff.
It's the biggest time of the year for a professional magician. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
It'll make or break your years for some guys, right?
I make a third of what I make all year in December.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always worked the gigs. I've never been a hard sell on my own self to events, which is where the real money's at. So I'm doing all the shit gigs from the talent agents, but there's a lot of work in New Orleans for holidays. But let me tell you, I'm ready to not do them and do other things. But yeah, go get them, fellas.
Yeah, that must be nice. I always plan any holidays I'm doing is always going to be like January, February. Because for me, that would be more quiet time. But
are you proactively selling companies on your show? Tell us how to get this work for those. I know there's listeners that want to get it. How do they get it?
Yeah. So I'll tell you the Brisbane formula that I've been working with, and I'd love to hear Nick's as well. But for me, what happens is the longer I've been doing magic professionally, the more people I've done gigs for that could potentially hit me up for their Christmas function. Because literally, like anyone who's seen me at a gig works for a company that will have a Christmas party. So it's just, did I make enough of an impact for them to think of me then, or did I give them a business card? So now my Christmas books out, the Christmas season, Antonio, books out much faster just because so many more people have seen me now. But also you also get an abundance of new inquiries as well, like through Google AdWords or agents or referrals or whatever. So typically the way that I plan it to try and be busy is remind my clients leading up to Christmas, hey, I'm going to get booked out pretty early. Have you thought about your entertainment? So I have a mailing list and I'll email them, which I've done, just to remind them. But also they're seeing my stuff on their socials all the time. So I would hope that I'm on top of mind by the time it gets to that period.
You said an important sentence there that you have a mailing list that you send out to. So you en masse, you're selling yourself to clients you've worked for before.
Yeah, always ones I've worked for before. Yeah, I've never done the cold call approach of hitting up law firms and stuff to pitch my gigs, although that's a great idea. But I just haven't.
Nick, have you done that approach where you're cold selling a company?
I don't particularly cold sell. I think that one of the things I appreciate about being a magician, it's a very niche market. And niche markets don't get by on flooding a market and sort of vanishing. The way that they keep going is that they maintain continual relationships and continual business. And that's where when you have folks that hire you every year for their Christmas party, or even every second year possibly, that's what's important. So I think that when you've been in the game long enough, you do build a client base that you let them know that you exist and make sure that you're at the forefront of their mind. Using your socials is a good way to do that. If they do engage in your social, they'll just see that you are being active. You'll always be at the forefront of their mind. And then when it comes time to do an event, that'll happen. Josh and I were having this conversation when he was here last, and we sort of identified that social media is the new mailing list.
Yeah.
It really is.
Definitely.
If you're not selling yourself on social media these days, wow, you're doing it wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm so guilty of that. Totally. And hanging out with Josh, the thing is, you guys saw two pieces of magic, but we created 9 that day. Like, we just created nonstop. It was great, you know, in the space of like the 5 hours we were hanging out. Like, we created so much, and it was so enjoyable. And I thought to myself, like, I create stuff all the time that I'm probably never going to do. Share it. Put it out there so it's out of my brain and it's done. It's documented, to say the least. I can just move on with my life, you know?
Man, your ship in a bottle-esque thing was like crazy. And that was only seeing a video of it. Nick has this stuff on video that he just has on video for the sake of documenting it for himself. And I'm like, holy crap, this is like, not only is this something you've made up, so it's not like a store-bought trick that everyone's doing from Murphy's or whatever. But like, it looks gangster AF. And Nick's got it. He's got it all in there. He just got to spend a bit more time with you, Doug, to get the bug to, put it all out there.
Yeah, we may need to chat after this broadcast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, get your creative output flowing somewhere else? Oh, man.
Well, no, it's like, see, I'm always creating, but it's just that it's whether or not like it's appropriate for me, or it might be better for somebody else. So sometimes I create stuff and I'll give them a call. Like, I'll call my friend Kath Jemison, a great mentalist, and I'll go, come up with this routine. It's not really for me, but I think it'd be good for you. My gift.
I see.
She's like, this is amazing, and I'm like, yeah, take it. I'm not going to do it.
Curious, do you ever publish your creative endeavors on YouTube?
No, I only show that stuff at lectures in person. Okay. Yeah. I've got a really unhealthy mindset about that. I've always had this mindset that, like, I was just getting really tired of things constantly being stolen from me for a time.
Right.
And yeah, it happened for a while, and then it sucked. But what it did do, it forced me into a corner where I evolved to being a magician and a performer who's inimitable, who can't be imitated. And now I do stuff, like I said, like that bit with the invisible card and so forth. Yeah. Like, it is stuff that, like, in order to achieve it, like, the amount of investment you would need to do is like crazy. And I challenge people to do it because I want them to elevate magic, especially Australian magic. I think we have a responsibility to do that. So yeah, so it's that type of thing that, like, I've spoken to other really great social media performers as well, like Xavier Spade and a couple others, and he's like, people feel it any man, just put it out there. Then a part of me thinks to myself, like, here I am with like 1,000 followers, I'll put something else, and some douchebag with 40,000 followers will rip off my routine or rip off my bit and do it for himself, because I find it staggering that there's some people out there, these entirely talentless people, but gorgeous people, very, very attractive people who lip sync like a movie scene and it gets 1 million views. And I think to myself, like, oh, okay. Like, I'm not bitter about it, but it's just like, I'm trying to understand it. I'm trying to understand what's up. Is it because, like, beauty is such a great commodity or such a valued asset in society, but maybe is it so valuable because, like, it's a depreciating asset because you're going to get old and you're going to get fat and ugly, unless you're a dog, in which case you are gorgeous. Like, I don't know. But
you've seen Jason going viral on TikTok, right? So I think that counteracts what you're saying.
Yeah, I consider the cute girls a bookmark for the quality content that people find if they spend any time on the platforms. Like, sure, everyone likes to look at beautiful people, but if you spend time on the platform curating interests, like, in this day and age, you'll find them. I don't know about all the platforms. I think Facebook is like stupid. Reels is just dumb. They have no idea how to pilot that ship whatsoever. But TikTok, if you're on there for a couple of weeks, if you want to look at dancing girls, they'll give them to you. But if you want to look at, I've got astrophysicists and, yoga teachers and wonderful circus arts and all the things I love, games, and it's all there.
Yeah.
And some high art too. And some good lip syncers.
I think in the long term, like, it'll be annoying, but in the long term, you'll win, because your brand will eventually dominate. Like,
this is what I think, Nick. Like, I think it's a question of whether the platform interests you. You obviously have good creative. If you were to approach it on a consistent basis, you would be the guy with 40,000 that, that's what would happen from strong performing content. So,
Yeah.
I also think it's just because it's not something that I know. There is no book out there that has really said, here's exactly what you do to this. I mean, don't get me wrong, we've all read the Gary V Crush It book and so forth, and but it's like, how do you utilize it? Like, I'll do something, I'll be like, stupid, why did you post it at this time? You should have posted it at this time.
Yeah.
Why didn't you use these hashtags? You're supposed to use these hashtags.
Yeah.
Make sure you tag these groups. Like, these are the things that, like, other than looking at folks who are doing it and copying or emulating exactly what they do in order to do, like, strive yourself, it's kind of weird because, like, I don't particularly want to be copying anybody in that process either. Like, I just want to, So
here's the thing: nobody knows what they're doing right now with this short form. We're starting to figure it out, but still, even it's the Wild West. It's crazy town. You just make it up as you go. You can copiers.
The one thing I think the one thing that has made Doug win on YouTube, because what is your subscriber now list? Like 600,000?
599.
599. So, like, if anything, like, obviously Doug is a great technician, has great video quality, but the main thing is he's consistent. He's posting stuff just every goddamn day. So, like, you can't help but see Doug.
These are my notes on short form media. Right? I wrote these trick talk notes concerning content for short form video consumption. This is the material I present often at Magic lectures now. And this is mainly a souvenir. But right at the beginning, I tried to sum it up. And here's the bare bones. Get good lighting. Get good lighting. Give your audience a reason to care. And be consistent. That's it.
Give them good lighting, reason to care.
Give your audience a reason to care, and then be consistent. And then you'll be an internet superstar.
How do you get them to care? That's a really you know what that is? The exact formula you've said is street performing, like street shows.
I had a street performer in my house over the weekend, and I told him how luxurious it is to have the skill sets we do to convey ourselves over social media. If Jason's listening, he'll say, yep, it's 100% segue from one to the other. Street performing, you just use the same thing. Build an audience, get them to stay, get them to watch, and then get them to pay. Like and share, baby. They pay with their likes and shares. So it's very much that formula.
I mean, we say all this stuff, but, like, Nick's still busy as a performer anyway, but it's just that extra creative endeavor you can play with.
Do you want to, like, go for it? I don't recommend that to anyone, right? I think if you just make good quality content that you enjoy making and you think you would like to see, then people will enjoy it. And there is, I guess, concerned if you're protecting creative property, right? And the Magic community is ruthless for taking ideas, especially if you intend to be commercial for yourself with any of these endeavors. It's a genuine concern, unfortunately. But I'll tell you what set me free in this last couple years is realizing that I don't have to please a Magic audience. I have to please the world. Not magicians, just human beings. And if you start thinking about that instead of thinking about what magicians think, it kind of opens a whole different level of at least not being concerned about someone selling your trick because, I'm not actively creating as much as I used to. So I can't put myself in your shoes right now because my creative endeavors are minute these days. They're not groundbreaking.
Well, I really appreciate what you're saying there because it's kind of got me torn between two sort of factors. And, one is that, like, are you afraid of people taking your material everywhere else? But when you're someone who, so one side is that you just keep putting out content, and it doesn't matter what the content is. It could be content that you purchase from Murphy's or any of the great Magic suppliers out there, and you just perform that trick you purchased.
Right.
So you spend $30 and you do a thing, and you've got, you got your 90-second clip because you've spent the $30, right?
Right.
Now, if that's what you're driven to do because you're trying to build an audience, by all means. But like, if you're someone who's like trying to create magic and you're trying to create your own bits, you're trying to do a thing with a Lego in a bottle, or you're trying to do things with shadows and a golf ball bullet catch and all these things that I'm currently working on. Like, if you're not hyper focusing on that, are you taking away, like, you know, like there's something has to give in my world.
Yeah.
When you work as much as I do, because you need to make time for family or for girlfriends, whatever it might be.
Absolutely. As I'm getting back to work more as a professional, going out to do gigs like this fair or even street perform or magic lectures, I'm finding so less time to produce content, but I'm trying to make the things I do the content. And a word on buying the $30 tricks. I am guilty of this process, but also I'm guilty of loving that guilt. I love buying a new trick, playing with the toy and sharing it with my audience. So while that is part of my process a lot of the time, I love it. So I'm practicing what I preach. Doing what
and
I
think if you were to take that route, I think the creative part of showing who you are is finding a different way to perform that trick. So you find the thing and then you go, okay, well, what would I do with this thing instead of like the patter it comes with? And I've seen Doug and Jace do that a lot, and I, not as successfully in views, but I do the same thing. I try and post videos, but in, you know, a totally different way to maybe what magicians are used to seeing it used as. And just like the video we made, man. Like that gimmick was, that trick is so good, but we just made it, you know, we showed us a bit more than just the trick.
I think if anything's important for the modern professional, it's finding ways to showcase yourself on social media that aren't even the tricks, just like your life on, you know, and there's some guys doing great stuff with this, some high level professionals that are finding short form media as a good platform to share what they do without necessarily making it, here's the Doug Kahn show, you know?
Yeah, true. Yeah, you just need to get that one guy that will actually follow you around at Holy Moly, and you can have all these short form clips.
Yeah.
And you can find all those, and you could have all those one-off moments where, you know, when you just have that one-off thing happen that normally never happens at a gig, and now you've got that unique thing they said in the video. Yeah, like that would be a great way to document what you're doing instead of having to create stuff every week.
Josh is doing, like, I was enjoying your beatboxing earlier today. You genuinely stopped me in my tracks. I listened to the whole thing and enjoyed it. So this is a good example of sharing yourself without making it like the Josh Magic show on Instagram.
By the way, Doug, you and Jace are really selling me on the 360 camera. Jace is apparently putting out a video in the next day or two of his vlogging with it, going to Japan.
I had a great time with it this weekend in the French Quarter, and I shot a video today, actually. I shot a thing from my office to my kitchen. If there's a problem with it, certainly in-house, is the audio. It does have an earbud hookup, or AirPod, and I failed to get that thing working today, but certainly on my list is to get that microphone working, because it is small downside.
Which model do you recommend for a 360 camera, Doug?
So I bought the Insta X1 360 X1 II. There's a 3, which is a little better. I'm not the all-knower. I just bought what I thought was a reasonably good product that had decent reviews. So I'm happy with it.
Jace went and got like the newest one.
Insta 360.
I think he said, whatever their latest model is what he went with. But
so it shoots in a higher bit rate. It's the X3.
Okay.
It shoots in it's higher bit rate. It's the same resolution. They're both 5.7K. I don't think 360 cams get much higher than that. I think it'd be nicer if it was maybe like an 8K, because when you get these big wide 360 shots, it's a lot for a camera, and you know, so unless it's really ideal conditions, this camera struggles. But outside shooting environments, and I'm certainly looking forward to getting audience reaction shots, which is why I bought it. to get the reactions to what I'm doing.
So, yeah, like you can capture yourself and the audience, right?
Right.
Like the 10 million viewed coin matrix in busking. Was that using that, or was that your M50?
It wasn't. But
that would have been such a testimony.
I'm thinking of all the shots I've missed because I didn't have a camera on the audience, and that's a telephoto lens on the iPhone Pro Max is what I'm using. Telephoto lens, which is a great lens for capturing outside street work.
Oh, damn. I didn't realize.
So with the camera capturing in 360, I mean, I don't know if it's a silly question or not, but you can capture like left to right as well as up and down, like that focal point.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I was fooling around with the routine just yesterday, and I was like, oh, I'll film this, and I'll put it up and I'll make Josh proud. That's literally what I thought to myself. And then I was doing this whole bit, right, with this coin. And one of the jokes is, you know that thing you do where you go like that and you put it on your leg and then you get to punch someone?
Yep.
Like, how do you describe it to the listeners? Like, you know, when you make like an OK symbol, like your thumb and your first finger together, and you put it on your thigh, and when people look at it, you get to punch them, that type of thing. So that was a gag that I was going to be doing in this routine. And I thought to myself, oh, crap, I need somebody to now film me so they can pan down to capture this gag and then pan back up again. And then I went, I need a 360. If I had a 360, I could do this myself.
Well, I mean, if you're shooting it vertically, you should be able to get it as well. Just saying.
The possibilities are huge for Magic.
Yeah, the framing is kind of important, but yeah, I guess capturing is the audio. Here's the thing: when I did vlogs many years ago, and then I used it because I wanted it as a means to better script what I do and to speak to camera and to present and so forth. It got me into a lot of MC work and everything else. So when it kind of got me to where I was, time-wise, I didn't see the value in doing the vlogs anymore. So I stepped away from them and just focused on, because I got what I wanted out of it, the actual real life work. That pay properly and everything else. So it's the type of thing that I learned in that realm was audio is far more important than visual. And I want to know if you guys think the same things.
Notice that I mentioned the audio right away because I do think it is important. That said, this camera has 4 microphones. It's not like skimped on the microphone, but when you realize how important audio is, you want it to get it right. So ideally, I think you shooting with an external microphone always to be top tier. You know,
you
why we have this instead of the webcam.
Instead of being in a car with your AirPods, normally you have the
at least
great.
You got the sign.
Well, the sign adds to it for sure.
There's got to be some downsides of a camera like that. Is the battery life ordinary? Like, what is the downside of a 360 camera?
So battery for the one I have, I think it says an hour and a half. I shot like 4 acts the other day. I must have had that thing on for nearly 2 hours, and it survived an afternoon of shooting in Jackson Square. I do plan to get extra batteries. That's 2 batteries is $30. I'm buying that for sure. If I'm doing a 5-hour stint on the pitch and I want this thing running all the time, I want it running all the time.
And cool. So they're interchangeable, which is good. So the downtime is pretty good, obviously.
And then I think the only other downside is the low light, right? Like it works best.
I would say so. Yeah, I tried to shoot some things in studio. Wasn't super happy with any of it. I am going to put a video on YouTube, unless I hate it when I go to edit it. But probably Wednesday. I started here, and it's just me holding the 360 cam. I go from my studio to the kitchen, and I do my thing. So I'm zooming around. That's the plan anyway. It'll be the first landscape 360 thing I've done. So take a look and you'll see kind of what I'm starting with, this week.
Does it eliminate the need to have a gimbal or something that stabilizes the camera? Because I have like a full rig that, on a stick.
Very much so. And if I'm not mistaken, it's produced by a gimbal company, this thing. Right. There's super stabilizing modes on it.
Yeah, David Ung asked an interesting question, like with the audio. Does it basically mix all, let's say, 4 the question David asking is, how's the audio for the 360? And I know that it has multiple microphones. Is that just put a mix of all 4 mics?
And I wish I could answer this better. Literally, as I was watching the footage I shot earlier, I got the sense that the microphone was changing from one to another on the footage, but I'm unsure if that is exported in that fashion. So stay tuned Wednesday. And it's a sadness here in that when I go in my kitchen, it's like a cave in there. I have a living room kitchen that's like a mammoth cave. So I've got echoes, but stay tuned. And if you don't see it, that means it's shite. If it doesn't make it to air Wednesday, it's no good, and I need another swing at it.
I'm with you. So before we wrap up, Doug. So Doug's about to go away and not a festival. You said it's a carnival? No, a fair. A state fair?
The Louisiana State Fair. Most states in the United States have a state fair. It's a few weeks long. We showcase our livestock, do some rodeo, and there's clowns and magicians along with carnival rides for your entertainment pleasure.
Nice. And will you be on the podcast next week still? Or
yeah, my dark days are Monday and Tuesday. So I think unless the Wi-Fi is horrible or I got bad cell service, I'll do what you're doing, but without the sign.
Yeah, we really got to get you one of these hand-drawn signs by Jason. Okay, great. And what about you, Nick? What are you up to this week? What's the schedule like? I saw you went go-karting just yesterday, which is cool.
Yeah, I go go-karting almost every Monday because I really want a Porsche, and I don't have anywhere to put it if I bought one. So I decided that it'd be more cost-effective to go racing every Monday as opposed to getting a Porsche that cost me $100,000+ that I'll end up losing my license with and having to fork out thousands in insurance and tires. So I do that every Monday. Nice. I go racing to get it out of my system. I'm a big fan.
I do fun. What a great idea.
It's a great time, and it's just, I don't know, man, like, it's a little treat to myself. I spoil myself just by heading out to the track. And then, friends pick up and can I come too? I'm like, yes, come. And then it ends up being a group thing before you know it. And I was a bit slow yesterday by about half a second, but I think I got fat. I don't know. Or maybe the tank had a full tank or something, but I wasn't.
Man, I want to do that.
Well, when you're in town, buddy, we'll take you.
Yeah. And before we go, what's up this week, or what's next for Nick K?
I genuinely am entering the crazy Christmas mode, and I have so many events this week. I am literally like back to back. I have like 3 gigs Saturday, 2 Sunday, 2 Friday.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. Like things, I'm literally back to back. Ordinarily, even if I do have 1 or 2 in the day, like I'll come back home, have another shower, and go to the next gig. I don't even have time for that this week. Like I'm literally staying as fresh as I can, but I always bring a change of clothes like between each. So I got to be fresh. It's just one of the things I do, like fresh shirts, fresh everything, fresh undies, socks, and then I put everything back on in between shows. But I'm literally back to back. I'm doing stuff for Fox FM this week as well.
Is Halloween
on the
a
Friday
thing?
And Saturday.
Do you get Halloween shows there? Is it?
Yeah. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, that's what I'm doing on Friday. So yeah, that's going to be a fun one.
It's so hectic that I can attest to that. Even as we're doing this podcast, like just before we got on the podcast, I had a phone call for someone asking for inquiring about an event. And then just as we've been doing this podcast, I've seen 2 emails come through, like form submissions through my website. This is
where you up your rate. You're like, it's Halloween weekend, y'all. It's double.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Josh? You didn't. What everyone said what they're doing. What are you doing this week?
Yeah, this week, so we did the podcast. I'll shoot some content through the week. We've had a sick horse this week, so he had to go to the vets and come back. And so now I'm going to, try and get extra gigs to cover that. And my next event's on the weekend. So I'll be doing a nice wedding event and a little corporate thing and just getting ready for the craziness, but always have time for the podcast, so.
Yo, the Bob Possible going to Vegas in 2 days. Doing the Magic the Gathering event. This is I saw this thing he built. Did you see this thing? We're over time. I don't want to switch topic. The Black Lotus.
So. Okay.
I hope you get video of this, Bob. This thing is incredible.
Is this another Pornhub thing or?
No, it's a card. It's one of the cards from Magic the Gathering game, the most valuable and highly desirable card. Bob has made this thing into a magic trick, and it's incredible.
Oh, damn. Well,
so he's going to work the convention. He's going to work their 30th anniversary convention.
Oh, great.
And we wish Bob Possible the best, at least from this room.
Yeah, good luck, Bob. All right, we'll see everyone again next time on the Magic Guys.
Wrapping it up.
Peace.
Thanks for listening. It's time for us to disappear now. But we'll see you again on the next episode of the Magic Guys.